Good afternoon and welcome to Armageddon Live, Series 2, Episode 10. Maryland is Virgin Mary's land? On this 19th of April 2020. I'm your host, Daniel Decrypted. Yesterday I said I was going to do one quote. It's actually two quotes. So let's go and find our... Well, let's get me out of the way first. And let's go and find our books. Yes, Mr. Beast. Let's get you out of the way. There. Alright, so here's the website, my website. We're going to go to the Bibliography. And our first quote is actually dealing with this book by partially by Andrew White. So, yeah, so here's Mr. Andrew White, the Latin Relatio Itineris in Marylandium by Andrew White. So here's the picture of the book. Let's go to archives. Archive.org. Alright, so that's our book there. We're going to go to page 16. Keeps on changing. Where am I? Okay, oh, this one. Alright, so here's page 16. And now we're going to go and look at a blow up of this. Alright, so here's the same page blown up. So they're having a very severe storm, hurricane, and everybody gets afraid. So Father Andrew White, he says, so he says right here, in praying more fervently than was my usual custom, and had set forth to Christ the Lord, to the Blessed Virgin, Saint Ignatius, and the angels of Maryland, that the purpose of this journey, because this is about the voyage to the New World, to found the to settle the colony. It's the first group of settlers that are going to settle in Maryland, in the Maryland colony. So, and the angels of Maryland, that's why it says angels of Maryland, that the purpose of this journey was to glorify the blood of our Redeemer in the salvation of barbarians, and also to raise up a kingdom for the Savior, if he would condescend to prosper our poor efforts. And then the key thing I want to note here is says, just wait, I gotta turn on my, there we go. Says here, consecrate another gift to the Immaculate Virgin, his mother. So part of his prayer is to consecrate another gift to the Immaculate Virgin, his mother. and many other things. Now, if we go to the next page, same effect. Great comfort shown in upon my soul, at the same time to affirm, to so firm a conviction that we should be delivered not only from the storm, but from every other during that voyage, that with me there could be no room left for doubt. And then I had scarcely finished when they observed that the storm was abating. Okay, so our first quote points back to this text, which, as I said, is right. It's this story of the first voyage to settle Maryland, written by Father Andrew White, S.J., Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits. Alright, so let's go and look at our quotes now. So, our first quote, actually both of our quotes are taken from the same book. And it's by this guy here, Eggleston. Eggleston Edward, The Beginners of a Nation, A History of the Source and Rise of the Earliest English Settlements in America, with special reference to the life and character of the people. Alright, so let's go find that. So here's our book, and we're going to go to page 243. So here we are. Now he's going to reference back to the thing we just looked at in Andrew White's book. So if we go to my other pages that I've opened up already that are just zoomed in. So he says right here, a dangerous storm was raised on one occasion by all the malignant spirits of the tempest and all the evil genii of Maryland. But Father White circumvented this combination of ordinary storm spirits with imps of Protestant proclivities by setting forth to Christ and the Blessed Virgin, while the storm was at its worst, that the purpose of this journey was to glorify the blood of our Redeemer in the salvation of the barbarians, and also to build up a go to the next page, kingdom for the Savior, and to consecrate another gift to the Immaculate Virgin, his mother. So this is what Eggleston says. The last clause apparently refers to Maryland, as if it were named in honor of the Virgin. The representation was effective. The good father had scarcely ceased speaking when the storm began to abate. So that's the thing that, so to consecrate another gift to the Immaculate Virgin, boy, that's a terrible. Let me redo that. To consecrate another gift to the Immaculate Virgin, his mother. The last clause apparently refers to Maryland, as if it were named in honor of the Virgin. So that's what Eggleston says about that prayer of Father Andrew White. It seems to imply from his prayer that Maryland is actually named after the Virgin Mary, not a Queen Mary. Not Queen Mary, the wife of Charles I of England. He has some other interesting things to say too, and for that, we need to go back to our well, that's the wrong thing. What am I doing? Okay. Yes, we need to go back to here. We need to... Ooh, where am I? Yeah, so we need to go back to our book, and now we're going to go and look at page 244. So we just looked at 243. Oh no, what am I saying? We just looked at 243 and 244. We're going to go to page 245. Alright, so here's page 245. And this paragraph here has some very interesting things that he wants, that should be pointed out, that he brings up. And this is in relation to the naming of Marilyn. Right? He just brought up the fact that, according to, it seems from Father Andrew White's prayer, that Marilyn is actually named after the Virgin Mary, not after Queen Mary. So here he brings up some other things. So we go to a blow up of this. So this was our... Alright. So here's the start of our thing, our paragraph. The colony had been named Maryland by King Charles in honor of his wife Henrietta Maria. That's what I said yesterday. At least there was assigned to the king responsibility for a name that, like nearly everything else about Maryland, was ambiguous. But the phrase Terra Mariae in the charter, though represented there to be equivalent of Maryland, was significant to a devout Catholic of something better than a compliment to a Catholic queen. The Indian village, which with its gardens and cornfields had been bought for the germinal settlement and capital, took the name of St. Mary's. Alright, so there's our first little clue that something is a little strange here. So the capital is called St. Mary's. And St. Mary's definitely isn't referring to Queen Mary. And the whole infant colony is called the Colony of St. Mary's by its own legislative assembly in 1638, as though by Maryland, right? As though by Maryland were intended the land of Mary, but not the land of the Queen Mary, but the land of the Virgin Mary. So anyway, I just wanted to point those out, that Maryland, it's more likely that Maryland, even though it's recorded in history that it's supposed to be named after Queen Mary, the circumstances would seem to indicate that it's actually not Queen Mary at all. It's actually named after the Virgin Mary. Anyway, this is much longer than I intended it to be, but then again, moving around amongst sources is always a little difficult. But yes, I hope you found that interesting. Hope you found it informative. So I guess that's the end of this quote. But anyway, I just want to remind you again that, right, the indicators are that Maryland was actually named after the Virgin Mary. For the first reason being Father Andrew White's prayer, that he was dedicating something else to the Virgin Mary. The context would seem to indicate that that was Maryland. And then the fact that the capital of Maryland is St. Mary's, and it's called the Colony of St. Mary's. And Saint would definitely not be referring back to Queen Mary, but would be referring to the Virgin Mary. Anyway, so God bless. I hope that has piqued your interest a little more, and I hope to see you again. And bye for now.